Welcome to another episode of Where in the World. I'm so delighted to be with an incredible guest today. This is Trula. Trula, welcome to A Step Forward and welcome to Where in the World. Tell us where in the world you are and just a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, well, to get really specific, I'm actually in a closet that I've turned into a studio slash library. But
I love it.
yeah, but I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. And yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been living here for about 6 years and originally from around Charlotte area, North Carolina. And yeah, I love the Lord. I love following Him and trusting Him with my life and with music as well. So it's been a fun journey.
That's amazing. I love that you did this massive step like 6 years ago. What kind of prompted you to make such a big move? And did it feel like a massive move at the time?
Yeah. So I was actually in school my second year in at a small Christian music college, and I'm sorry if you hear some noise there. Like
You're fine.
they're doing some yard work out there. Um, there's yeah, I was at school in Memphis, and that's 3 hours from Nashville. So I had first visited Nashville when I was in like 10th grade in high school, and I just something about it felt like home. I didn't even see much of the city, but I just felt like one day I'll end up in Nashville, and it's Music City. It's not that crazy of a thought, and so I was always asking God the when, because with Him, it's a matter of procedure, and He's got a way about things. And I thought maybe right after high school I'd just kind of wing it and go there. And then because I didn't really want to go to college, but then I found a school that felt right to me and ended up going there. And it was actually sudden because I was planning to finish as far as I knew, like school and everything was set. And then I had like an unction to come to Nashville for a spring break and to network, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. I just knew by the time I graduated I would want to feel like Nashville was home. So I was like, let me go ahead and start cultivating community, maybe finding a church that I'll eventually end up at, stuff like that. And I went, and I don't know how to describe it other than like my week was empty, and then God filled it up very divinely. I only knew one person who lived in Nashville, and then I met this person, this person. This led to like even the part-time job I would get or the roommate I would have, and it all just happened so fast in this short week that by the end of it, I had told my mom, who traveled over just to hang out with me for that week, and I was like, don't let me go back and get comfortable because I'm shocked, but like it feels like this is like a now moment, and like I need to move here. And she had a lot of peace about it too because she saw it all kind of unfolding in that way. And yeah, so I ended up moving and like trusting God. And 2 weeks before I had to be out of my apartment in Memphis, I didn't know where I was gonna live or anything, and then He worked it out like as I trusted Him to like the last minute. But
That's
so I moved in
huge.
in
That is
2018.
so huge. And I'm just so like respectful of the fact that you heard, you followed, you felt the prompting and you acted on it. I think that's like such
Mm,
a huge brave step, but it really is the embodiment of what we talk about all the time in terms of living by faith and really wanting to
yeah.
be where it is that God wants us to be. And I think that takes courage. So kudos to you. 6 years
No.
has gone by. Does it feel
Yeah.
like 6 years? Has it been a massive
No.
shift of life? Like, how has that been in contrast to what life was before moving to Nashville?
Yeah. Um, it doesn't feel like 6 years. I still feel like I feel like time's moving really fast. And of course we had the 2020 thing wrapped up in there. But
Yes, yes, we did.
however many years that counts. But yeah, I don't know. I think Nashville, it's become very much a place. It does have like a home feel to it for me, and a home base. Like I want to be sent out of Nashville, and this is where I come back to rest, and where I have just great community, and it's just peaceful. But I want to go wherever the Lord calls me as well. And so it's been just a great place to be rooted and to have community, and then just kind of go out from there. But yeah, I don't know. It's a cool place to live too because it is like the Christian music capital of the world and a music capital of the world. So it's always got stuff going on. There's creatives, everywhere. And then I go back home and I just forget it's not that accessible. Like there's shows all the time and that kind of thing. So even that is, inspiring. And it just makes you want to keep creating and keep going.
It
So
really is like a bubble, isn't it? I think it's a
yeah.
musician's dream. I remember the first time I went to Nashville, and the first thing that shocked me was like they really mean business when they talk about it being Music City. There's literal
Yeah.
music coming out of every sidewalk in a jukebox kind of machine that is just working by itself. And then I remember crossing the road and seeing, like, literally, I'm crossing the road and worship leaders that I have followed like most of my life were crossing the road next to me. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. But it makes so much sense. Like you said, if this is constantly your life and your community, it's within reach, gigs and just
Mm.
that creative environment. It feels like a dream. I remember what it felt like that all those many moons ago when I visited. I
Oh,
imagine you finding your place there, and that's actually, and being, able to call it home. That must feel just so, so fun and incredible. I really love that you kind of spoke about that journey of just like, it's been some time. It wasn't a rash decision. It was kind of a quick decision, but it also wasn't a rush because
mm,
you're here kind of experiencing the fruit of what that move has done for your creativity and you as an
mm,
artist. Tell us a bit about that journey. Why music? And also, your genre is incredible. It's not often that you find it or come across it in terms of your fusion with jazz and soul
mm.
and all that kind of stuff. Like, how did we get there? Tell us a little bit about that story. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up an only child. I have some half siblings and a stepsister, but they're older and I've never lived with them. I'm my mom's only kid, so only child. And I say that because I think that played a lot into my creativity because I didn't have like siblings to play with or whatever. So I was even having to be creative of how to entertain myself. My mom worked a lot, and so I'd be like, in after school stuff or at my grandma's or just bored. I just remember being bored a lot, so I would you know, I kind of found out I liked music during that time. I would put on like little 3-hour concerts just to
I
myself
love
or
that.
whatever.
Who did not do that growing up? We're putting on a
Right,
show.
right, right,
Everybody, wait, wait, wait. I'm doing
right.
it.
But mine was just by myself in my room.
Oh,
There's not even an audience. So it was like I think I just had to get creative in that way. And then I don't come from a musical family, so that was also like a pioneering thing of I feel like God in a lot of ways has just I've very much just been led by him, and it's pretty obvious in just the circumstances like that I've grown up in, and by his grace. So I do remember though I grew up in a church that was also my school for a time until like middle school, and then I went to public school, but I was in that church, until I moved to Memphis for college. And that it was just a awesome place to be because they were really established in mentors and in the arts. And, I wonder what I would be doing maybe if I didn't go there because like I'm just so grateful for what they would see in the young people and pull out and cultivate.
mm,
And they saw stuff in me before I even saw or believed it. And I took voice lessons through my church. We would do musicals, we would do fine arts competitions, and all of that really helped me learn how to steward my gift and realize I was like in 6th grade when I realized that I had gifts and that they were to be used for God and given back to
mhm,
Him. And
mhm,
so
mhm.
I feel like God got me at a young age with that, and I'm just really grateful. And it's been a journey ever since. So then, when I was in high school, I didn't write. I would try to write songs, but I was really just kind of copying whatever I heard on the radio. I grew up listening to like just pop music, like whatever was trendy and like on the radio, pop R&B, and then I did listen to Christian and worship stuff as well. But
I love
but
it.
it's
Just get it in there.
yeah,
We were
just so you know,
okay.
I was yeah. Yeah, but as far as genres and stuff, I whatever was current. And so I didn't really go backwards. I didn't My mom would try to play, great old music for me, and I was like, "No, put on whatever's current." So that wasn't until college I kind of went backwards and discovered like great artists of like the 70s and 80s. But in high school, I didn't really write music, and I remember it actually feeling like an impossibility. Like there were people in my church who could write these amazing songs. There were people, that I looked up to, like celebrities and stuff. And I was just like, how are they doing this? Like, how are they so, I just feel like I hit a wall every time. And then similar with instrumentation, like I took piano lessons for several years and felt like I didn't like it wasn't clicking. And then I took guitar, it wasn't clicking. And so I remember when I was in 10th grade, I felt like I needed to kind of surrender my gifts all over again to God. Because between then and 6th grade, I had started like, maybe I'll just sing for me, and do like TV shows and that kind of thing. And then in 10th grade, I feel like God got a hold of me again to just recommit everything back to him. And it's interesting that like it's almost like the next day. It was the first day I just wasn't intimidated by guitar and picked it up and started teaching myself. And then I could write songs. And I realized that from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks and the hand writes. And it was all about God. And I was like, oh, I guess that's what's in there. I was trying to like write stuff that wasn't necessarily in there. It was just what other people were singing about. And when I let it just be true to what, I valued and the one I loved, it was all about God. So, yeah, and ever since then, it's kind of been like continuing in the same way and just writing new songs and going new places. But
I love that. It's so interesting because I think I resonate with your story in terms of you tried this to kind of like exercise this gift. I want to write, and then nothing happens, and all of a sudden it's like the lid just flies off. You just find your niche with it. And I think that's such
yeah.
a beautiful process. I love that you lent into that tension though. You kept on going to that wall like, hello, please come down. I want you to work for me. And I just respect that so, so much. So you mentioned about like, you listened to like, popular music, and then you went back in time and discovered like, actually, there's some great musicianship from like days of old. Who has been
Yeah.
like some of your main inspiration for kind of the kind of artist that you've become now, which I think is really unique in this space personally?
Well, thank you. I grew up on like, I really liked power ballads and stuff and like big female voices. So, I mean, even like Adele, I loved her growing up, and
Right.
Natasha
That woman is a
Bedingfield.
storyteller like
Oh, yeah.
of another realm. Sometimes I
Yeah.
feel she's just so good at that.
Yeah, totally. So I think that season's where I got like, I'm not belting all the time, but that's where I used to because I listened so much to her. So I feel like I got a taste of that. And then in high school, I was obsessed with Tori Kelly, and those were my running days. And I feel like
I
that
concur with
also,
this choice as well.
yeah, it's like just bits and pieces. Like, okay, we're gonna do a little this, little that, and then yeah, when I was in college, I kind of discovered like even just Stevie Wonder. Like, where was I? I knew of him, but I didn't dive into it um, until college, and that's when I was just like, wow, the '70s. I really like the way they even recorded and how live it felt, and um, that a lot of the soul and everything that was happening then. And so I think that plus living in a new city like Memphis that has so much history in blues and soul
Mm.
and jazz, it's like in the air there. And I feel like everyone can sing in that city. So it's not even that impressive, but it, it just, I was hearing new sounds, and I was at a music school where there's, a lot of musicianship and a lot of different genres and people with, world music, people from around the world. So I feel like I kind of even got into like Latin music and songwriters and stuff, and like Portuguese. And so I don't know, it just kind of opened up. And then I got like a strong distaste for all the stuff I had been listening to, not like those people I mentioned, but just like for modern like pop music. I was like,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
went very indie or like 70s. So but one of
Born
my,
on
I
the
don't know,
cruise.
yeah, I don't know if you probably do, Leanne La Havas.
Yes,
She's
I
like
do.
London. Yeah.
Yes, I
Well,
do.
I found her in
Amazing
college.
sound. Yeah.
Yes. And I would like, she had a one live concert that was on YouTube, and they've since taken it down, which makes me so sad. But I would like for 2 months straight, I like slept to that. And I also feel like she got me into electric guitar, and I learned all her shapes, and that's like where I got like just a lot of inspiration. She
That
kind of
is
opened up my world.
crazy.
Yeah. So I really love her, and like Emily King, if you know her.
Firstly, all of your choices I fully support. Love all of those people, and I think, and isn't it just how powerful? Like you went to sleep to a YouTube concert, and look how much this has developed your artistry. But like, I would never, I could see like you sit in the same class in terms of genre, but you're
Mm.
still so unique, and the development of yourself. I've got to say, when I listened to your music, the first time I discovered you, and my favorite song at the time from the EP was Rain Down. I was
Mm.
like, this is a song of old. I know this. I remember this.
Mm.
This is like old.
Wow.
There's an old soul, even though you're incredibly young, to the nature of even how you approach your blues and you approach your jazz. And I'm like, that
Mm.
is not, I don't hear that very often. But it makes sense when you speak about the people that have inspired you. I still think that you are sitting in an individual space, even though I can see
Mm.
where the kind of influences have been, which is exciting. And we're so excited to see how that develops for you further. You've spoken
Mm.
so much about kind of like, and really candidly and authentically, and I really have enjoyed hearing that from you in terms of like, this has just been a faith step. Everything has been a faith step. The unlocking of your gifting has been a faith step. The leaning into, okay, I can't write songs yet, but I know I'm supposed to. That's a faith step. Would
Yeah.
you say has been like some of the challenges, particularly not just maybe even as a believer and just about Trula herself, but then also the other dimension of the challenges that come with your you're striving for the stars as a Christian artist. Is there anything you can share kind of like on the challenge front with what that journey's been like for you?
Yeah. Well, I think I've really made myself determined to depend on God.
Mm,
And I think it's for the sake of like, I really want, if someone looks in or listens or, knows me, that it's God's glory on display. And I think being dependent on Him is what will like show that the best. And I also think because I said yes to His call when I was 4, and whatever
wow.
that meant to me then, all I heard was like, invite Jesus into your heart. And I remember going home telling my mom that I had done that day. But as far as what does that mean, who is He, how do I live for Him, that's a lifetime to uncover. And so, but I feel like because I was so young, it's like I've seen, I've tasted and seen, and I know that walking with Him is the best thing. So that also means waiting on Him and
Mm,
not going ahead or doing things in your own strength. And I've definitely tried that at times, and I just know it doesn't work. And the more I walk with Him, the more I realize, how glorious He is, that we can share in His glory, but there's really nothing to glory in and of myself. And
mm,
so, especially for artistry, like I don't want to present, I don't have that much people might think something of you, or think you're this or that, but I just want to reflect Him, because I know how, there's nothing in me that is good but Christ. And so it's like, the more I can display that, and I think the challenges of that can be that waiting thing. There's just a lot of waiting, especially as like an independent artist, which I still am at this point, is like, I'm dependent. I say independent, but that means I'm fully dependent on Him, because I'm not dependent on anything else. So, and
mhm.
I'm definitely not dependent on myself. So it's like I'm waiting on Him for timing for songs, even just literally writing them. I don't write like every day. I'm not that type of songwriter, but I write like when I feel prompted, and that's when it just like flows out. And a lot of times I get melody and words and everything just like all at once, but that's still not an everyday occurrence. So there's even waiting on Him. There's waiting on Him to have resources to be able to put out
Mm,
music. So it's like all of that, and trusting that as we abide in Him and go from a place of rest, like He's going to take care of all those things. And He's making sense of our life. He is our life. So I don't have to go try to find it or make stuff happen or build something. I don't want to build something of my own. So yeah, I think, as nice as all that sounds, it does require waiting though. And people don't like to wait. I get impatient too. So
I think that's like the common human challenge across the board is, and I think particularly when we're aware that our human nature is not, designed for patience naturally. The flesh really wants things now or wants to understand now. And that really isn't the relationship dynamic that we have with God. It's a beautiful
yeah,
one. There is so much to be had in that waiting. Like you said, there's rest. There is
yeah,
the trusting that actually it's not my gig, it's His. So
yeah,
if I said that I'm waiting on God, He said that He's going to be my provider. He's taking care of
yeah,
me. What that looks like, I don't get to determine. There is tension
right,
there, but that's also so beautiful because what a wonder to live. Like, somebody else is literally footing my bill for everything because he gave me his name when I invited him in. And that's
Mm.
such an incredible journey, but a tough one in this world at the same
Yeah.
time. So I think you share such a beautiful balance of the reality of that, but also
Mm.
so much joy in that kind of prospect. So thank you so much for sharing that. Do you feel
Of
that
course.
your music is for someone specific, or people, a group specifically, or who do you think your music is for, basically?
Mm. That's a good question.
I try. I really do.
It's a good question. I feel like especially recently, I don't know, I was like rereading, the loaves and the fishes and a few months ago, and I feel like the things that really stood out was it's it's God who provides, but he partners with the disciples, and it's him who blesses it and multiplies and does the miracle, but he gives it to the disciples to distribute. But the disciples didn't provide the people, they didn't like do the miracle. So I feel like what God was showing me is like with music, all you're in charge of, I'm gonna bless it, I'm gonna provide it, and I'm also gonna provide the crowd and the number of people. You just distribute it, you just hand it out, and I'm gonna get it to all the people that it needs to go to. And so I think where sometimes we have it backwards, and though I do think that's a question that has an answer, this isn't to be like, that's not what I'm asking myself. I think that's also a great question. But I think sometimes, like, when it comes to like the industry side of it, it gets so backwards. It's like, let's focus on trying to figure out or even manipulate who is going to how many people, and like focusing on the, outcome that we don't even know what it should be. But instead of the distribution and trust that was, involved in our responsibility being there. And I don't know, I think just the goodness of God, because I never know who's going to find my songs. And it's always a miracle when it just leaves these walls, that it's like, and I know it's there as long as those streaming platforms exist, it's there, and people are just, it's available if someone needs it in 2 years. It might not be right now, but and so anytime I get to travel like I did the other day, it's just crazy to me that God has had it meet the people it needs to meet. And I could have never known.
Yeah.
Someone came in from Paris for that show, and she was just talking about
Wow.
um how much it meant to her, these songs. And I'm just like, that's crazy, I'd never even been over here. So I feel like I really don't know who it's for, but I just know that I'm supposed to give God my yes. And then so anybody it does reach, it could be one, like, that's literally, it's like a miracle to me, because I just don't have expectations, like, other than I know God's gonna be faithful, but like I don't have like, oh, it's gotta be this or that. So I think it helps me just like be grateful for whatever happens,
I
and
think that's such a good
surprised.
way to describe it. And I think you're right. Historically speaking, particularly those that take music seriously and they want to see it at least have its day in the sunshine. So the work and the creativity gets its moment to be visible and impact and do what it's designed to do.
Mhm.
But I think we've come into an era now where those kind of, they call them KPIs. Who's my KPI? Who's the key person that I'm of interest that is
Yeah.
supposed to be my target audience? It's shifted,
Right.
and I think that's been a breakthrough, particularly for those of us that are in the creative world. But we know that we're doing this for the glory of God, and whatever that looks like for you, because that means that the opportunity has such like a wider scope, because we know that we're unique. But historically, if it wasn't what a label wanted or what somebody was
Mm.
looking for, particularly for a platform that had influence, we were reliant on fitting or molding into what that need was. But now,
Yeah.
with streaming, people can self-publish, they can literally release their music anytime. It's just like, okay, God, whoever this is for, I'm game. And I love that you
Yeah.
said that, because even the way you described how someone was impacted by your music and came to your gig recently in London, all the way from Paris, to tell you how much their music impacted. That's exactly how I felt about you too.
Oh.
So there is something really special about, God, I'm just going to be faithful what I think you're showing me and see what happens. And it doesn't
Yeah.
stop there. And I think a lot of artists that were making music in their rooms in lockdown, not knowing in the four walls of, I don't know who this is going to be for, will it even reach
Mm,
anywhere or
yeah.
touch someone? Like, it's good to hear that. And God is so faithful. Like, I'm bringing you across the paths of the people that you're impacting.
Mm,
And look at him being able to do that. And that in itself, that story, I hope it's going to be something that really touches someone in their testimony. Just to let you know, I have forwarded your stuff all the way to Cape Town. I have some avid like jazz
oh.
musicians who are super like key on the circuit there within jazz. And South Africa and
Mm,
Cape Town is renowned for like its jazz culture. So I said, have you heard this? Have you heard this?
oh.
And the woman that I sent it to, like, she's an older family friend, and she's basically watched me grow up since infancy. And I was like, I think this song is for you and it's your music. And I said, she's just released a new song. And we'll talk about your song in a minute. I will not ruin that.
Yeah.
And she was like, God just knows what I need. Thank you for this. This woman
Oh.
sounds incredible. So keep doing what you're doing. God is hearing and seeing your faithfulness. And that I wanted to share that with you just so that you can see that there is something really special about being obedient. And God is really faithful to what
Mm,
he's doing when he blesses people to kind of do what they're supposed to do with their creativity. I love
mm.
that you've shared that so much. And I think that's encouraging for the next person in terms of just do it. Don't wait for a
Yeah.
specific audience that you think you need to be gearing
Yeah.
for. Just do it. Now, you have had some incredible collaborations. You've opened for Victory Boyd, who's really been kind of just up and coming and just growing. I know she's
Mm.
been around for some time previously with her family. You've opened for her gigs. You've done some directing for music videos for Madison Ryanwood. You've sang with her, and also one of our home favorites, Praise the Bangu. Like, you've had some incredible
Yeah.
collaborations. Is there in this amazing list already that you've got somebody else that you would love to collaborate with at this point?
Oh. Mm. That's such a good question.
I really try with my questions. I'm so grateful for your feedback about my questions. Honestly, it's lovely.
Maybe if me and Victory could do a song together. We haven't
Oh,
done
come
that.
on!
Or
I
okay,
want to know. Yes.
Claudia too. Yeah.
You need,
We always
like,
talk
for the
about
people
it.
that don't know, please say the full name and who she is. That's
Claudia
important.
Saki.
Yes, yes.
Paris. Yeah, she's great. Yeah,
That would be an amazing combination. You guys, again, you speak this similar language, I think, with your
mm,
incredible fusions with jazz, but your voices are so different. So to hear that together, that would be just like
yeah.
glory in an hour. I can't wait.
Oh.
Whenever that drops, let us know. We will be here for it. Thank you so, so much. I want to talk about, and I tried to allude to it earlier, is your latest single, Shadow.
Mm,
Wow. Tell us a
mm.
little bit about the story behind the song. I love it so, so much.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of similar to what we've been speaking of, like being one with Christ as a shadow is one with its person. I wrote it last fall, and I was just kind of, I don't even know. It was one of those days where I was feeling creative. I was home alone and I forgot to eat and like turn on lights when the sun went down because I was so like in the zone, like writing and finishing it. And but I think I started with, I'd come across the verse that we're all pretty familiar with of like keep me within the shadow of your wings, and those types of verses that talk about God's shadow, and we quote those a lot, or there's a lot of songs I feel like written about that. But what does that actually mean and entail? And so I was kind of thinking of a shadow, and I saw that shadows are always in step with their person and like never can even be separated. So there's a oneness. There's it represents shade, which represents safety and protection. Um, if it's the shadow of his wings, so like we soar on wings like eagles, like I think of um that imagery. It's like, well, we'll go high when he elevates and
Mm,
we'll go low when he humbles. It's like where I'm soaring even depends on him. And so there's surrender, it's obedience, it's trust, it's timeliness. And I don't know, I was really struck by that in such a maybe simple thing that we say a lot. There's just so much depth. And yeah, so that song just came very quickly. I started with a poem, and then it just kind of went from there. And this is one of the first ones the first song I've ever put out that I played everything on, because normally I hire out musicians, and even just for like a safety thing, I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for everything that you hear in it. Like, I'd rather put that on someone else. But I felt really challenged this year to give that more of a my best, and just be willing to put something out like that, because as an independent artist, if I'm always waiting on people or when I can afford people, when sometimes I think God is like, um, I want to develop something in you and not have you dependent on other things, and kind of, it wasn't the easiest thing to want to do that, just because I'm like, is this good? Like, is it gonna stand next to my other stuff that has musicians on it? I was like, I don't know. But yeah, I feel like I saw his faithfulness in that whole process, and it was actually a joy to create. And so yeah, that's a little bit about Shadow.
I love that. And I think even the way you described both the depth of the song when you said like we take this for granted, but there was so much depth, and that really comes
Mm,
across in the
mm,
lyrics, in the even in the intonations as to how you use light and shade in how you play, and the musicianship behind the song. It's such a beautiful dance, actually, the way that you've done it.
mm.
I enjoy it so much. This song has been on repeat for me since last Saturday when I first heard it
Oh,
live on your gig here in the UK. But even going beyond that, I love also what you said is just like there are many times where it's quite vulnerable to, I'm going to put this nakedly here with all of my flaws or places that I don't feel as
mm-hmm.
strong. And I've got to say,
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's how you felt. And so when I heard you play it live, just you and your accompanying guitarist, and it was stark like that, for me, I was like, this is
Mm,
the sound. It filled the room. It wasn't lacking. It didn't
mm.
show any kind of less powerful or anything like that. So just as encouragement again, like it's
Things,
lovely
yeah.
to see like you being faithful to like God saying, I want to develop something. You don't necessarily rely on what maybe, and I say this in a tongue-in-cheek way, like the noise of having additional musicians to cover you a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lean like on what I'm building inside you is such an encouraging thing to hear, and hopefully that kind of will encourage everybody else trying to figure like, to be very honest, I feel similarly. I know how to play 5 chords on my guitar. So I'm like, okay, leading worship, you guys just going to have to trust me that my 5 chords is going to get us through and the Holy Spirit's going to be there. But it's very raw, it's very vulnerable. But God always does amazing things when we give him our weakness, and his strength is made perfect, right? So that's
Yeah.
amazing. I
Totally.
wanted to ask you, if music wasn't around, what would Trula be doing?
Music, but I can still be artsy, right?
No,
So,
like there
because,
was no music at all. Like, what would Trula be doing?
well, maybe like visual arts. Could I do that?
You could do that. That makes
Because
absolute sense.
definitely wouldn't be doing any sports or cooking. That's for sure. So something still in this lane of arts, but
I like it. I like it. And okay, and what's like the big dream for Trula? Ultimately, what is the big
mm,
dream for Trula?
I feel like this might not be the most fun answer, but I feel like the more I live, it's like the less I have a a dream. Like when I was a kid, it was like huge, and it's not that these aren't still ingrained or that I don't think about them, because I saw like nations and stuff when I was a kid, and
Mm,
but even, I mean, we have Spotify. People are listening all over the world. Things like, don't take for granted that like we are reaching the nation, even just putting your stuff out. But even if
absolutely.
you never get to step, on foreign land, but I think, I don't know, because when I was a kid, I really wanted to be famous, which is hilarious to me, because I was really, really shy, and the personality was not there, but I had this thing, and then God really delivered me from that to where, I'm really not focusing on outcomes or whatever. So I feel like my dream has really just become to, if I could just keep doing what I'm doing and he just keeps providing, and I don't need to be rich that I forget him, poor that I curse him, as Paul kind of talks about.
Mm, mm.
But I'm willing to be, whatever he wants me to be, wherever he wants me to go. And if I can just be old and gray, sitting on a rocker one day with all these stories about the grace of God, that's like the dream.
This is a very respectable dream. I love this dream. I'm here for this dream. This is amazing. Truly, it's been an absolute honor just to have
Hmm.
you kind of share your story with us, share your heart, your very authentic and down to earth, very real faith. And it's just been
Oh.
so encouraging. I would ask you just kind of like as a final question before we kind of close up here is what kind of piece of advice could you give to others who want to follow in the footsteps that you're doing, that want to take these steps towards what God is calling them to do in the creative space? What would be your piece of advice or nugget of wisdom?
Yeah, just fall in love with God and surrender all things to Him and learn godliness with contentment. It says that that
Mm,
is great gain, and the world can't give you that. And we can't muster that up. But the more we know His Word, I find so much rest in His Word and strength. And yeah, knowing His Word, knowing Him, and then just being available, just saying, "Here's my yes." It's like as simple as that, and He can do so much with our little. He can make so much of Himself through us. So yeah.
I love that so much. And finally, where can people find and follow your work? That would be amazing.
Yeah, wherever you listen to music, it's under Trulah, Trulah. Instagram, Trulah, Facebook, Trulah Music. My website's trulahmusic.com. You can sign up for my email list there. Send me any requests or prayer requests, anything on through my website. And yeah, YouTube, all that. Just search Trulah.
Love it. We will absolutely be following your journey. And
Aw.
we're just so excited to see you grow. God has obviously put something so special inside of you and your gifting. But more importantly, like your heart is so on display with the things that you do. And we're just excited to see what's going to come of that in the next and up and coming future. We love
Aw.
you so much, Trula. God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us at A Step Forward. And hopefully we'll get to see you in person again soon.
Yes, I hope so, Carla. Thank you so much for having me.